In a quiet corner of Jacksonville, a line of police cruisers pulled up behind a small church. They were surrounding a white van parked off to the side, where 56-year-old Donald Smith sat waiting. Smith wasn't just a stranger. He was a registered sex offender who had been released from jail only weeks earlier. When the officers moved in, he didn't struggle or try to run. He simply climbed out of the van, maintaining a flat, emotionless stare that gave nothing away. As Smith was led away in handcuffs, AK-9 officer noticed something unusual on the man's clothes. It was a small detail, but enough to make the officer stop and look again. This was the first physical link to a nightmare that had started the night before at a local Walmart. There, under the bright fluorescent lights, Smith had used the promise of a gift card and a cheeseburger to lure 8-year-old Cherish Periwinkle away from her mother. At this moment, the investigators hadn't said it out loud yet, but the discovery of the van confirmed their worst fears. Smith had spent his life navigating the justice system, often being flagged as a high-risk offender, yet he'd been free to walk into that store and wait for an opportunity. Now, as search teams began combing the thick brush and uneven ground near the church, the search for Cherish was about to reach its tragic end. Cherish Periwinkle was 8 years old. She was described as talkative, affectionate, and curious. She liked to ask questions and stay close to the people she trusted. She was one of several siblings and played the role of the little sister who always wanted to be included. At home, she followed her older brothers and sisters around and tried to keep up with whatever they were doing. Cherish enjoyed simple routines, watching cartoons, playing outside, and helping her mom when she could. She liked feeling grown up. Just days later, she was supposed to take a trip to California with her family. It was something she was excited about and talked about often. At the time, Cherish's mother, Rain Periwinkle, was struggling financially. Money was tight, and every purchase had to be planned carefully. That day, they went to Dollar General to pick up a few basic items. It wasn't a big shopping trip, just necessities. Rain spoke with a store employee about needing help with clothes for her children. It wasn't an unusual conversation, just a parent trying to figure out how to make things work. Any offer of help would have mattered in that moment, especially one that sounded practical and immediate. While they were outside the store, a man approached Rain. He introduced himself casually and spoke in a calm, friendly way. He said his wife had seen Rain inside the store and wanted to help. According to him, she was inside Walmart and had a gift card they could use to buy clothes for the kids. He didn't rush the conversation. He explained things slowly and kept his tone reassuring. He told Rain that his wife loved helping families and that this wouldn't take long. At one point, he said words meant to ease concern, something along the lines of, "You'll be with us the whole time." Rain hesitated. She didn't immediately agree. She asked questions and tried to make sense of what he was offering. What made the difference was the idea that another woman, his wife, would be there. That detail mattered. It made the situation feel safer. Eventually, Rain agreed. She and her children got into the van, believing they were heading to Walmart to meet the man's wife and use the gift card. The doors closed. The van pulled away from the store. That decision would change everything that came after. The van pulled into the Walmart parking lot and parked. At that point, nothing about the situation looked unusual. Rain gathered her children and followed the man inside, still expecting to meet his wife and use the gift card he had mentioned. The store was busy, like it usually was during the day, with people moving through the aisles and carts rolling past. It felt public, visible, and safe. Once inside, the group split their attention between browsing clothes and moving from section to section. The man stayed close, often positioning himself near Cherish. Rain focused on looking through racks and trying to find affordable items for her children, trusting that the promise of help was still standing. At one point, the man placed a rope into the shopping cart. It stood out, but not enough to immediately stop everything. Rope is sold at Walmart for all kinds of reasons, and in the moment, it didn't register as a threat. Rain later said it struck her as odd, but not alarming enough to confront him. As they continued shopping, his attention toward Cherish became more noticeable. He spoke to her directly, asked her questions, and lingered near her even when there was no reason to. He offered to help her pick out clothes and guided her toward areas Rain wasn't focused on at the time. In the fitting room area, employees later reported moments that didn't sit right. The man entered dressing rooms repeatedly with Cherish nearby. Other shoppers noticed him going in and out more than necessary. Nothing openly confrontational happened, but there was a sense that his behavior didn't match the situation. Rain, distracted and trying to manage multiple children, didn't see everything as it happened. The warning signs were subtle, scattered across small moments that didn't fully connect until much later. Eventually, the man brought up food. He suggested taking Cherish to McDonald's inside the store while Rain finished shopping. He framed it as a simple solution. Cherish could eat, and Rain could focus on checking out without juggling hungry kids. It sounded reasonable. McDonald's was inside Walmart, not outside. Rain believed Cherish would be only a short distance away, still in a public place. Rain agreed, thinking she would meet them again shortly. She told Cherish to stay close and listen. Cherish didn't protest. She walked with him toward the McDonald's area, turning back briefly before disappearing from view. Those were the last moments Rain would see her daughter alive. Time passed, and Rain finished gathering the items she needed. When she went to meet Cherish at McDonald's, they weren't there. At first, she assumed they had stepped away or were using the restroom. Then the store's closing announcement came over the loudspeaker. Rain's concern quickly turned into panic. She began walking faster, checking nearby aisles, calling Cherish's name. She scanned faces, carts, and exits. There was no sign of her daughter. Her phone wasn't working properly. She tried to make calls and struggled to get through. She asked strangers if they had seen an 8-year-old girl with a man. Some tried to help. Others hadn't noticed anything. Minutes passed, then more minutes. The store emptied. Employees locked doors. Cherish was still gone. By the time Rain contacted authorities, valuable time had already slipped away. On the 911 call, Rain's voice was urgent and unsteady. She told the dispatcher her daughter was missing and explained where she had last seen her. She described the man she had been with, what he was wearing, and the vehicle he drove. Some details were unclear. She couldn't remember everything. Stress and shock made it hard to organize her thoughts. During the call, Rain mentioned things she hadn't focused on earlier: the rope, how closely he stayed near Cherish, how quickly he had offered to take her alone. Those details came too late.
911 Robinson. Hi, at Walmart. I'm in Turner. I think my daughter's been taken. What do you mean? Taken by a stranger. I can't find her. I met him in today at Dollar General. He saw that I was struggling to buy them some clothes. He drove us here to buy us some clothes, and the only reason I went with him because she said his wife was going to be here.
Okay, and she was last seen with this man?
Yes, he said he was going to McDonald's, and he hasn't been there because the store is closed right now. I had a bad feeling about him.
Okay, how long have you been looking for you? When was the last time you saw your daughter? How long ago?
About half an hour ago.
Okay, ma'am. What's your daughter's name?
Her name's Cherish.
And her last name?
Periwinkle with a P. I had a strange feeling about him when I first met him, and he took her to the dressing room twice, and I was hoping that she would be okay. And I was looking at the shoes, and I didn't want him to think that I was overly protective. I had a bad feeling. I thought, well, I feel like pinching myself because this is too good to be true. He was giving my 8-year-old too much attention. He wanted her to buy these really tall shoes that were women's shoes, and I told him no. I don't want him to kill her. I should have told him no.
Police responded, but the case was initially treated as a missing child situation rather than an abduction. Officers gathered information, took statements, and began reviewing surveillance footage. An Amber Alert was not issued right away. Hours passed as investigators worked to confirm what had happened. Those early hours mattered more than anyone realized at the time. By the time the urgency fully set in, the man and his vehicle were already gone, and the window to bring Cherish home safely was closing fast. As investigators worked through the night, attention shifted to one place that could answer the most urgent questions: the surveillance cameras. Detectives began by pulling footage from the Dollar General where the first interaction occurred. The video confirmed what Rain had described. It showed her speaking with a man outside the store, followed by the children getting into his van. The vehicle's color, shape, and partial license plate became critical details. From there, investigators moved to Walmart's extensive camera system. They tracked the group as they entered the store, noting the timestamps in the path they took through different departments. The footage showed a man pushing a cart, staying close to Cherish, and moving through the store with purpose. Camera by camera, detectives reconstructed the timeline. They identified the rope purchase and documented how often the man positioned himself between Cherish and her mother. Each clip added another piece to the sequence of events. Then came the moment investigators had been dreading. On video, Cherish is seen walking away from the main shopping area with the man, heading toward the exit. She does not come back into frame. Rain is not with them. That was when the case shifted from uncertainty to confirmation. Cherish had left the store with him. Using the vehicle information and store footage, police identified the suspect as Donald Smith. He was 56 years old. Smith was a registered sex offender. Records showed he had been released from jail just weeks earlier. Once Smith was identified, the response escalated quickly. A statewide bolo was issued with his name, photo, and vehicle description. Patrol units across the region were alerted. Air units were deployed to scan highways and wooded areas. Officers began checking nearby motels, focusing on places where someone might try to stay briefly without drawing attention. Investigators also reviewed sex offender databases, retracing Smith's known locations and past behavior patterns. Teams were assigned to knock on doors and follow up on any place he might have ties to. Time became the most pressing concern. With every hour that passed, the chances of finding Cherish alive decreased. Late the next day, a call came in from a member of the public. The caller reported seeing a van matching the bolo description parked behind a church. The sighting had occurred earlier, but the witness hadn't immediately realized its importance.
Hi, we're calling about a suspicious van over here, a white van.
Thanks to a call from someone watching the news, they were able to track down the van.
And how long ago did you see it?
7:20.
Yeah, 7:20.
It was like that. We
We didn't know anything until just now. It's not there anymore, but we don't know if he dumped anything because we heard a girl just got abducted from Walmart.
All right, and you said it's now gone?
Yes, ma'am.
But you think he may have, just in case he might have dumped something?
Right, we don't know, but just in case, it looked suspicious because it was all the way to the back.
Officers were dispatched to the location. The area behind the church was quiet, partially hidden from the road. The timing placed the van there not long after Cherish was last seen. For the first time since the alert went out, investigators had a specific location to focus on. Police located the van behind the church and moved in. Officers approached cautiously, treating the stop as high risk. Donald Smith was inside. He did not attempt to flee. He appeared calm and showed no visible injuries.
Driver, step out of the vehicle. Face away from us. Keep your hands in the air. Stop.
Inside the van, officers found items that raised immediate concern, though they did not yet know where Cherish was. A K-9 unit was brought in to assist. As the dog circled Smith, the handler noticed the animal reacting to something on his clothing. The response was strong enough that the handler alerted investigators on the scene. Smith was taken into custody. Search teams began combing the area surrounding the church. The terrain included brush, trees, and uneven ground. Officers moved carefully, marking areas as they went. Not far from where the van had been parked, they made a discovery. Cherish's body was found nearby. Investigators documented the scene and secured the area. What they observed confirmed that the worst outcome had occurred. At that point, the search ended, but the investigation was far from over.
Officials say the little girl's body was found in an unnamed church. A sheriff's office spokesperson says Smith was taken into custody Saturday morning after officers surrounded his van.
Smith was recently released from jail in late May. He reportedly has several previous arrests dating back to 1977 when he was convicted of assaulting a child under the age of 16. WLTV reports investigators are now transitioning the way they're handling the case from an abduction investigation to a murder investigation. For Newsy, I'm Logan Tittle.
The discovery near the church brought an end to the search, but it marked the beginning of a much deeper examination into who Donald Smith was and how he'd been able to get so close to Cherish in the first place. After his arrest, Smith was taken in for questioning. Investigators noted his demeanor immediately. He appeared calm and controlled, showing little reaction to what was happening around him. When detectives attempted to question him, Smith chose not to cooperate. He declined to provide a statement and avoided answering direct questions about Cherish, the timeline, or his actions after leaving Walmart.
The video shows a quiet and unemotional Donald Smith, chilling footage of a killer a little more than 12 hours after he kidnapped that little girl.
Have a seat. We'll be with you in a little bit.
Donald Smith is led into an interview room on the morning of his arrest as JSO detectives try to get answers.
What's your name?
Donald Smith.
Donald Smith?
Yes.
It's June 22nd, 2013. Police have had a long night searching for 8-year-old Cherish Periwinkle. They have just discovered her body. Investigators leave Smith in the room. He sits back and closes his eyes. More than an hour later, homicide detectives come back and read Smith his rights.
If you do answer questions, you have the right to stop answering questions at any time. Consult a lawyer. You understand that?
The murder suspect had no intention of talking.
This is an investigation of the abduction and murder of a
Cherish Periwinkle.
Yeah, 8-year-old female. We'd like to ask you questions about it. You want to talk to us?
No.
Okay.
So they take pictures for evidence.
Put your hands on the wall and lift your right foot up.
And book him into jail.
What stood out most of those in the room was his lack of visible emotion. There were no signs of panic, grief, or remorse. His posture and tone remained flat, even as investigators explained the seriousness of the situation. The absence of reaction became part of the case file, adding concerns about his state of mind and intent. With no cooperation from Smith, detectives turned fully to evidence and background records to build the case. As investigators reviewed Smith's past, a pattern began to emerge. His criminal history stretched back decades and included multiple sexual offenses involving minors. Court records showed prior convictions related to child sexual abuse and attempted abductions. In several cases, Smith had approached families in public places, often using conversation and offers of help to gain access to children. Because of his history, Smith had been under long-term monitoring as a registered sex offender. He was known to authorities and had been evaluated multiple times over the years. At one point, officials had considered civil commitment, a legal process that could have kept him confined due to the danger he posed to the public. That process was never completed. Instead, Smith was released from custody weeks before Cherish was taken. That missed opportunity became a major focus of later reviews and public scrutiny. Psychological evaluations conducted over the years described Smith as a high-risk offender. Experts noted his fixation on children, his lack of impulse control, and his repeated failures in treatment programs. Doctors and evaluators testified that Smith understood the difference between right and wrong, but continued to act in ways that put others at risk. He was not considered legally insane, but he was considered dangerous. Reports explained that while Smith met the criteria for severe sexual disorders, the legal thresholds required for indefinite confinement were difficult to meet. Each time he completed a sentence, he was released back into the community under supervision. In hindsight, experts acknowledged that the system had relied heavily on monitoring and compliance rather than prevention. That gap allowed Smith to remain free despite repeated warnings in his evaluations. While in custody, Smith made several phone calls from jail. These calls were recorded and later reviewed by investigators and prosecutors. In conversations with his mother, Smith attempted to minimize what had happened. He spoke in vague terms, avoided details, and portrayed himself as confused about why he was being held. At times, he suggested that events had been misunderstood. Those statements directly conflicted with the surveillance footage, witness accounts, and physical evidence collected by police. In other calls, including conversations overheard or reported by inmates, Smith made statements that were more revealing. He spoke about the case casually and showed awareness of the evidence against him, even while continuing to deny responsibility in official settings. The contrast between what he said privately and what he refused to say publicly became another piece of evidence illustrating his mindset.
Crazy. There's no way in this world. No way. I'm done. So I went outside. Something looked good and she came out. I'm going to Walmart. If you want, you go to Walmart. If you like Walmart, you can get dressed. She goes, well, I don't know. It just says, Joe, I don't want to run. I talk to strangers, so I understand. So I told her, you can get a dress and a pair of shoes for your kid. The kid was going to California the next morning. Real father. Here's why. Because overboard. But I'm noticing the mother's kind of digging. So anyway, we just go forward. Keep it all crazy, panic. She's hitting the kids, and guess we're in the store. 5 minutes. Oh God. I'm gonna get away from these people because now they're gonna want to ride home. I want to ride home. For sure. So anyway, the little girl, cherish. I'm walking out, she comes up. And he says, no, go back there with your mom. She goes, I'm going with you to McDonald's. I said, no, go ask your mom if she wants something to eat. I've been crying away, I'm trying to get away. She comes running up. And I'm panicking. Now I'm a sex offender. Little girl out of the parking lot of my truck with security right there. Her mother is inside. My mind starts to freak. And I mean, freak. I'm shaking because now this is a kidnapping. Shit, I'm afraid of this girl. I'm panicking. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna start my van and pull up to the door. And I'm thinking, holy shit, I don't know what to do. My mind, it just went boom. I don't view children as sexual objects. I don't view them as sexual objects or sexual partners. All I know is that I snapped. My mind just left me. All I knew was, you gotta go. You have to go. I don't care how, you gotta go. Could it have happened the way they said? Yes, it could have. It could have. I was so psychotic. I was extremely wild. She had to go. I don't care how she had to go. That's my life. Stay right here. Kill me. It's your fault. I'm gonna die. I was raging. I'm not a wild person. Never be able to work through all this. Never. I'll never be okay. So rather than spend the rest of my life being humiliated by myself, telling all this crap in my head, I might as well just die with it. Easier to just die with it because I'll probably never get through it anyway. That's what my brain's telling me. I need a very simple book.
During the trial, the medical examiner presented the autopsy findings. The testimony was delivered carefully and without unnecessary detail. The examiner confirmed the cause of death and described injuries consistent with the timeline investigators had established. The findings supported the conclusion that Cherish had been killed shortly after being taken. As the testimony was presented, the courtroom grew quiet. Family members listened as the examiner explained the medical facts, some unable to look up from the floor. The autopsy results reinforced what investigators already knew and left little room for doubt. They became a central part of the prosecution's case, grounding the emotional weight of the trial in clear, documented evidence. By the time the medical examiner stepped down, the focus of the case had fully shifted, from searching for answers to seeking accountability for what had been done. With the medical evidence established, prosecutors moved forward with formal charges, laying out the legal framework for what will become a closely watched trial.
You mentioned earlier that during an autopsy you take dissections.
Yes.
And you mentioned that you noticed an area in Cherish's back of her head.
Yes.
So you shaved her head?
Yes.
And then cut her scalp so you could look at the injury more closely?
Yes.
And did you photograph that?
Yes.
And what I'm going to direct your attention now to States 84 and ask you to explain to the jury what is reflected here.
Okay, so when the scalp is reflected back, you have an area of hemorrhage right there.
I'm sorry, where?
On the left side of her scalp right there.
And how is that caused, Dr. Rao?
Blunt trauma.
I'm going to show you 2 more photographs of the dissection taken of Cherish Periwinkle's throat. Will you first tell the jury what you saw when you dissected her throat?
Yes, so what we do is, I'm sorry, I have to take a break. Can I just have like 5 minutes?
Do you want a 5-minute break? I think we'll all take a break for 10 minutes. Thank you.
Donald Smith was charged with multiple serious offenses, including kidnapping, sexual battery of a child, and first-degree murder. Each charge reflected a specific part of what investigators believed had happened, supported by surveillance footage, witness accounts, and physical evidence. The kidnapping charge focused on the moment Cherish was taken from Walmart under false pretenses. Prosecutors argued that consent was never valid because it was obtained through deception. The sexual battery charge was tied to evidence gathered during the investigation and supported by expert testimony. The murder charge required the prosecution to prove intent and responsibility beyond a reasonable doubt. Together, these charges formed the foundation of the case the state would present to the jury. When the trial began, the courtroom filled quickly. Media, family members, and members of the public watched as both sides delivered their opening statements. The prosecution outlined a clear timeline, beginning with the first interaction outside the store and ending near the church where Cherish's body was found. They emphasized preparation, deception, and opportunity, arguing that Smith's actions were deliberate and planned. The defense took a different approach. Rather than disputing every fact, they focused on Smith's mental health history and raised questions about intent. They did not deny that Cherish was taken or that Smith was involved, but they suggested his psychological state should be considered when determining responsibility. From the start, it was clear the trial would rely heavily on evidence rather than speculation. Rain Periwinkle was called to the stand and described the events of that day in her own words. She walked the jury through the trip to Dollar General, the conversation with the man outside the store, and the decision to go to Walmart. As she spoke, there were moments when she struggled to continue. She paused, took breaths, and occasionally needed time to compose herself. Her testimony was direct and focused on what she remembered, without embellishment. She described the last time she saw Cherish and the moment she realized her daughter was gone. When asked about the phone call to 911, her voice broke. The defense chose not to cross-examine her. The decision was brief and final. She stepped down without being questioned further.
When you walked outside the Dollar General, did a man talk to you?
Yes.
What did this man look like? Describe him for me.
He's got white hair.
The man who started talking to you, do you see him here in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you point to him and describe where he's seated and what he's wearing today?
He's wearing a long-sleeve blue shirt.
With the glasses on top of his head?
Yes.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witnesses identified the defendant?
The record will so reflect.
Ma'am, on June 21st, 2013, the defendant didn't look like this, did he?
No.
Do you recognize the person in that photograph?
Yes.
Does this photograph fairly and accurately depict the way the defendant looked on June 21st when you first encountered him?
Yes.
Ma'am, is your monitor on right
Yes.
now? The monitor now shows State's Exhibit 1 in evidence. Is that how the defendant was dressed when you walked out of the Dollar General and met him for the first time?
Yes.
Had you seen him in the store before you walked out?
Yes.
Inside the Dollar General?
Yes.
When did you first notice the defendant inside the Dollar General?
I was in the shoe aisle trying on shoes with my children. I looked to my right and he was standing in the doorway looking right at us.
At some point in time, when you were up towards the front of the store, did you see him again?
Yes.
What did he say to you when you walked out the front door of the Dollar General?
If you really want that dress, I'll get it for you.
Did he make any other comments to you about your children?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said, you look like you have your hands full. I have a couple of little ones.
Where was this in relation to the front door? Where was he standing when he struck up this conversation with you?
He was near the front of the store.
Right at the front door entrance, right as it leads from the parking lot into the store?
Yes.
Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
Do you recognize that photograph to be a photograph of the surveillance video from Dollar General on June 21st, 2013?
Yes.
Does this fairly and accurately show both you and the defendant and identify them by arrows as you walked out the front door of the Dollar General on June 21st, 2013?
Yes.
And it shows the parking lot and the front door.
Yes.
Ma'am, looking at the monitor in front of you, is that the location when he first spoke to you as you were walking out the front door of the Dollar General?
Yes.
During the course of that conversation, did he make any mention of a gift card that he may have at Walmart?
Yes.
What did he tell you about this gift card?
He said, I have a $150 gift card. I'm waiting on my wife.
Did he make you believe that he was going to give you or allow you to use the $150 gift card to buy items for your children?
That's what I was thinking.
And did he continue to talk to you while he was waiting for his wife?
Yes.
Did you stand there in the Dollar General parking lot during the course of that conversation?
Yes.
How long were you there with him while he was waiting for his wife?
I'm not sure exactly.
Was it a number of minutes?
Yes.
Did he tell you his wife was coming?
I kept asking him where she was.
What was his response?
She's coming.
Did he tell you how she was coming?
I asked him, what does she drive? He said a gold car.
So you waited at that point. You were waiting to see if his wife came to give you the gift card.
Yes.
Did it begin to rain at some point while you were waiting for his wife to arrive in this gold car?
Yes.
What were the children doing?
They were playing with their umbrellas and running around, having fun.
Just doing what kids would do?
Yes.
What was the defendant doing while you were waiting for his wife in this gold car to show up?
He went and sat in the van with the door open.
Did the gold car or his wife ever show up at the Dollar General parking lot?
No.
Over the following days, the jury heard from numerous witnesses and reviewed extensive evidence. Surveillance footage from Dollar General and Walmart was played in court, showing Smith's movements and confirming the timeline. Jurors watched as Cherish was seen leaving the store with him. DNA evidence was presented and explained by forensic experts. The results linked Smith to the crime and supported the prosecution's theory. Witnesses included store employees, law enforcement officers, and individuals involved in the search. Each added details that reinforced the sequence of events. Expert testimony covered topics ranging from forensic analysis to behavioral patterns. Together, the evidence created a consistent and comprehensive picture of what had occurred. After closing arguments, the jury was sent to deliberate. The process did not take long. When they returned, the courtroom was silent. The verdict was read aloud, guilty on all counts. The jury found that the prosecution had met its burden of proof. Their decision reflected the strength of the evidence and the clarity of the timeline presented during the trial. With the verdict delivered, the case moved into its final phase. Responsibility had been established. What remained was determining the sentence that would follow. With guilt established, the trial entered its most difficult stage, deciding how Donald Smith would be punished for what he had done. The sentencing phase forced the jury to weigh two outcomes: life in prison without parole or the death penalty. Prosecutors laid out the aggravating factors they believed justified the harshest sentence available under the law. They pointed to Smith's criminal history, emphasizing that this was not an isolated act. They highlighted the planning involved, the deception used to gain access to Cherish, and the fact that the crime occurred after years of warnings about the danger he posed. The state argued that Smith had been given multiple chances and had continued to offend. Survivor testimony followed. Family members spoke about Cherish's absence and the permanent impact on their lives. They described empty bedrooms, unanswered questions from siblings, and the daily weight of grief. Some spoke through tears, others in steady voices, but the message was the same. Their lives have been permanently altered. The defense urged the jury to consider Smith's mental health history and argued that a life sentence would ensure he never harmed anyone again. They asked the jury to choose punishment over execution. The tension in the courtroom was unmistakable. The decision carried consequences that could not be undone. After deliberation, the jury reached its decision. They recommended the death penalty. When the judge formally imposed the sentence, the courtroom remained quiet. The judge acknowledged the severity of the case and addressed the harm done, stating that the sentence reflected both the law and the jury's findings. Donald Smith was sentenced to death. There was no visible reaction from him as the sentence was read. Family members of Cherish reacted differently. Some cried, some held each other, others stared straight ahead. For them, the sentence did not bring relief, but it did bring an end to the legal uncertainty.
We, the jury, find as follows as to the defendant Donald James Smith in this case. We, the jury, unanimously find that the state has proven the following aggravating factors beyond a reasonable doubt as to the defendant Donald James Smith in this case. Donald James Smith was previously convicted of a felony involving the use or threat of violence to another person. The first-degree murder was committed while Donald James Smith was engaged in the commission of a kidnapping and a sexual battery. The first-degree murder was committed for the purpose of avoiding or preventing a lawful arrest. The first-degree murder was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel. The first-degree murder was committed in a cold, calculated, and premeditated manner without any pretense of moral or legal justification. Cherish Periwinkle was a person less than 12 years of age. Reviewing the aggravating factors that we unanimously found to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt in Section A above, we, the jury, also unanimously find that the aggravating factors are sufficient to warrant a possible sentence of death, and they have marked yes. As to mitigators, we, the jury, find that the following statutory mitigating circumstances have been established by a greater weight of the evidence as to the defendant Donald James Smith in this case. I'll read the mitigator and then the answer. The first-degree murder was committed while Donald James Smith was under the influence of extreme mental or emotional disturbance. No. The capacity of Donald James Smith to appreciate the criminality of his conduct or to conform his conduct to the requirements of law was substantially impaired. No. Donald James Smith's age at the time of the crime, yes, by a vote of 12 to nothing. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Donald James Smith, should be sentenced to death, yes. And so say we all, this 22nd day of February, 2018, and signed and dated by the foreperson. Members of the jury, we're going to ask each of you individually about the verdict that you have just heard. The question pertains to whether the verdict as read by the court was correctly stated. Reviewing the aggravating factors that we unanimously found to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt in Section A above, we, the jury, also unanimously find that the aggravating factors are sufficient to warrant a possible sentence of death, and they have marked yes.
In the months that followed, public attention gradually faded, but the impact on Cherish's family did not. The case sparked conversations nationwide about child safety, sex offender monitoring, and system failures. Custody arrangements for cherished siblings changed. Some were placed with relatives. Others entered adoption processes designed to provide stability.
The mother of murder victim Cherish Periwinkle in court, fighting to get her two youngest children back tonight. For the first time since the state took custody of the girls, their father is speaking out.
I'm the daddy. I'm going to take care of them. I'm going to do everything I can to take care of them and be their daddy.
Tom, 2 nights ago, Rain Periwinkle told me she's ready to have her children back in her home. But tonight, the girl's father told me why he should have custody.
Aaron Pearson says life without his little angels is painful.
I've never been without them. I've never been in one day without them. It's very, very hard. Very hard. Yeah, I think about them every day. You know, there are pictures on my phone. It's very hard.
But he understands why the state has stepped in.
DCF and these agencies, they just want to make sure that we've gotten ourselves together and that we're on the right track to be able to take care of our children. And that's their job, and I'm going to cooperate with whatever they ask me to do.
Pearson says the Department of Children and Families has asked him to get a 2-bedroom apartment, and until he can, he'd like his 5- and 6-year-old girls to live with their grandfather.
They've known my dad all their life, and they're comfortable with him. And I would like them to be, you know, with him, obviously, until I do what I have to do to get them.
And if he's allowed to bring Nevaeh and Destiny home, he promises to share them with Rain Periwinkle.
If I were to get custody of the girls, I would definitely never, ever keep them from their mother. You know, girls have to have their mommy, and I would never keep them from her.
He says especially after they lost Cherish, who they'll never be able to get back.
I mean, I miss her every day. I think about her every day.
Pearson says the tragedy of Cherish's death has split him and her mom apart, but even through the custody struggle, he says he still cares deeply for Periwinkle. He says he's just trying to do what's best for the other 2 girls.
Haley, any indication when the judge will decide who will get the children?
Well, Tom, Judge Gooding said today this custody dispute could last for months.
Haley Winslow reporting live tonight. Thank you, Haley.
The family structure they once knew was gone. Rain Periwinkle faced ongoing struggles. She dealt with grief under public scrutiny and the weight of being judged by people who had never met her. Counseling, legal matters, and day-to-day survival became part of her new reality.
The mother of 8-year-old murder victim Cherish Periwinkle tells News4 Jax her 2 other girls have now been taken from her. 9-year-old Destiny and 7-year-old Nevaeh Periwinkle have been adopted by their aunt who lives in Australia, and the girls moved there at the beginning of January.
The children's former attorney, Ad Litem, says Periwinkle had the chance to get her daughters back, but failed to meet the criteria, and so the state had no choice but to put them up for adoption.
Destiny and Nevaeh Periwinkle are now living in Australia, and these are her new parents.
Going to Australia, starting a new life with family, that's the best thing for them.
I am their mother. I would die for them. I don't care what anyone says. I'd go without for my children.
And there's just so much that's not being said right now.
If you can't take care of your children, would you rather your children be in foster care or with family?
Periwinkle says she wasn't given a fair opportunity to prove her ability to take care of the girls. She says the last time she saw them was during visitation last March. She says she told them she would continue fighting to get them back and feels she was shut out of the process when she lost her parental rights.
I wish they would just feel for one day what they've done to me. And it's not all about myself. Cherish is the biggest victim in this, okay? She's the biggest victim. But because I'm her mother and I'm the adult, I'm the one that has to do these interviews. I'm the one that has to go to court hearings. But Destiny and Nevaeh Periwinkle, they're victims in this too.
Life moved forward, but nothing returned to how it had been before that day. As expected in a capital case, appeals followed. Smith's legal team challenged the sentence on multiple grounds, including procedural issues and claims related to his mental health. Over time,
Donald Smith was found guilty of kidnapping, murdering, and raping 8-year-old Cherish Periwinkle. But now he wants a new trial. Smith's attorney filed the motion this week, and tonight we're already hearing from you, our viewers, who think that should not happen.
His attorney is saying that the judge, Mallory Cooper, made errors in that the jury was not able to fairly come to their verdict. Donald Smith wants a new trial. That's according to this motion filed on March 5th. Smith's attorney, Charles Fletcher, says this emotional moment when medical examiner Dr. Valerie Rao cried while testifying is one of 11 reasons Smith should get a new trial. Attorney Randy Reep, not affiliated with the case, believes Smith won't get a new trial.
In Donald Smith's case, I would suggest to you it is closest to zero as anything could ever be.
Here are some of the other claims made by Fletcher. The court made a mistake in not acquitting the case, and that the verdict is contrary to the weight of the evidence. But in court, defense attorney Julie Slacks told the jury that they came to a guilty verdict based on testimony in court.
You applied that testimony to the law, and with your verdicts, you ensured that Cherish Periwinkle got justice.
Reep believes Smith was found guilty fairly and won't get a new trial.
People don't like to have evidence used against them, but it was valid evidence. So here, I see nothing in this that was such a grave error, even if it was an error, that Donald Smith should get a new trial.
courts reviewed and rejected those arguments. Each ruling upheld the original verdict and sentence. Donald Smith remains on death row, where he awaits further legal proceedings. The case is considered closed in terms of guilt and sentencing, with no changes to his status. This case raised difficult questions that extend beyond one crime. It exposed failures in monitoring, gaps in intervention, and the limitations of systems designed to protect the public. Could earlier action have prevented what happened? Should warning signs have carried more weight? Those questions continue to be debated. Cherish's story still matters because it shows how quickly ordinary moments can turn into tragedy, and how important accountability, awareness, and prevention remain. The case is over in the courtroom, but its lessons remain.